Grace gets out of the van, and I thought she's just going to say goodbye and sorry it didn't work out. And she gets out and she looks at me dead straight and she said, Gucci, I haven't seen talent like this since I discovered Pat McGrath, and I want you to be on my team for everything, and you must not be available for me. I was by myself though, and it was too late to call anyone. That changed my life, because flying home that night, the next day I had every option for every story, every cover with every editor for probably the next 5 years.
I'm Jill Demling, and this is Going Rogue. Today's guest is Gucci Westman, one of the most celebrated makeup artists of our generation. From a California ashram to the northern lights of Sweden, Gucci's unconventional upbringing shaped her artistic eye. But her career really began on film sets, working with directors like David Lynch, Spike Jonze, and Michael Bay, where she learned to create skin that, as she says, feels like an emotion. From Cameron Diaz's makeup and Being John Malkovich to her covers of Vogue, Gucci made the seamless transition from Hollywood to high fashion, creating iconic moments with Patrick de Marchelier, Annie Leibovitz, and countless Vogue stories with Grace Coddington. In 2018, she made the leap from set to CEO, launching Westman Atelier, a clean luxury beauty brand that merges skincare and makeup. From Hollywood to high fashion to building her own empire, let's hear how she did it as Gucci Westman goes rogue. Hi, Gucci.
Hi, Jill. This is a blast from the past.
I know. I've had so much fun doing these because I'm kind of reliving without PTSD all these amazing shoots and just this life experience of 25 years that we just don't have now. The industry's different. These shoots,
sure don't.
yeah, and you're a CEO now, so there you go. But this morning, I was looking at some of the old covers that we did together.
You have all of them?
Yeah,
No.
I have all the issues right behind me, every single issue. But yes, I have all of these. I was thinking, when you look back at old covers, because I know you do some posting and TikToks or whatnot, kind of talking behind the scenes or behind the face of these covers. Do you remember what products you used or colors or anything about it? It's funny because I remember what the celebrity was like, a situation that might have happened if she was late, if she was early. But I'm like, I wonder if Gucci remembers what she used.
I mean, that's a great question, actually. In some instances, if it was something for whatever reason, I can remember what I used on when we did that cover of Penelope Cruz in Spain. I can remember what I put on her lips because I remember that I was like happy with how she looked. And Annie remarked, and then I remember what I put on Reese Witherspoon for one of the covers, like specific moments, but not the entire face. I don't remember really everything, but I remember tidbits from a lot of the shoots. Like Britney Spears was my first Vogue cover. I remember.
That's where we met. I was just about to get into that because that was our first shoot. For anyone out there, we've talked about it a lot on this podcast. It was her Brits for the November 2001 issue. So I definitely want to talk about that. And I just want to tell you two things now that we're on it, that two different people on that shoot remember. Tawny remembers Britney being very upset about Justin on that shoot. Leslie Fremar remembers her taking a nap. I remember DDA's face when he started touching her hair and realized it was mostly extensions. Yeah. So those are the little things I remember. But yeah, tell me what you remember from it.
I also remember her opening up to me like after 2 seconds, basically sitting in my chair and saying, do you ever feel like you're not sure if it's right? And I wasn't sure what she was referring to because I was more nervous that I was doing my first cover of Vogue than her personal kind of story. So it was obviously she wasn't sure if she should move in with Justin, is what she then told me. And I said, well, I mean, how long have you been together? I think I was just trying to understand the situation.
Well, and it's so long ago. And like we're trying to think before so much happened, right? So sometimes it's hard having too much information right now and trying to remember what it was like not having all of that information back then. I remember it wasn't the easiest cover for me to get everyone on board with. She was huge then, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was huge. She was huge.
Were you
And
like, oh my God, we're with Britney Spears? Or it's hard to remember that part.
I do remember what I wore, which is so weird. I wore a Comme des Garçons navy blazer with like spikes in the back of it. And I wore like a cute little top and jeans, like APC jeans. And
Your uniform, let's be real.
I wish I knew where that jacket was, but I remember what I wore. I remember being excited and nervous about
Because
doing.
that's a huge cover to start with. It's not like you're starting with Coco Rocha. It's, it's
Yeah,
it's
it was
Britney.
definitely disruptive. And also the flag, laying her on the flag. And I remember
Right.
that became quite the sort of like splash in terms.
Yeah. Well, because September 11th had happened right before we went to shipping. So we had to find a way to not just have a pop star on the first cover we were putting out that we had control over, right? In a changed world. And that was the moment everything changed.
Yeah. I do remember she was like really not at ease the whole day.
Right.
And it was difficult to kind of navigate what it was. If I was like, who's she upset with? And I think her manager was there.
Oh, Sonia Muckle, who we love.
Yeah, no, Sonia was cool, but there was another person there who was like edgy.
I'm sure she had more than one person.
I don't know, but there was like a lot of like, it didn't feel like she was relaxed.
Right.
She felt distracted.
It's so crazy. And then Tani and I talked a lot about all the little kids we had there that never ran in the magazine. And now through research, I found a bunch of the photos popping up places. A lot of them were the autograph photos because remember, we sent prints to all the kids that she had signed. But that's when you saw her smile, right?
That's when she kind of like forgot about her personal situation, and she was, I agree with you. That's when she was kind of like, oh, she is happy. She's cute and joyful. Yeah,
I know. Well, your career has been amazing. You've worked with every major photographer. Your work has appeared in every major fashion magazine, and now you're the CEO of your own company. What I've learned doing these interviews is that many of my guests knew very early on what they wanted to do, but how they'd get there was the mystery. Some had support from their parents, some didn't. Since you're a busy woman, I'll give a quick recap. Claude helped me out here. You were born in California and spent your early years living in a Kundalini yoga ashram.
True.
Where you learned to live off the land and where you got your name Gucci. At 10, you moved to Sweden and absorbed a whole new set of values. Quality over quantity, clean ingredients, sled rides to school, and the magic of the Northern Lights. Your parents didn't allow makeup, which only fueled your obsession. You'd fix your friends' makeup on the school bus and found joy in painting and other creative outlets. At 18, you moved to Switzerland to learn French and lived with a fashion critic who gave you beauty products and took you to shows in Paris, your first taste of the world that would become your career. Around 23, you attended makeup school in Paris, then moved to LA to study special effects and began working on films, commercials, and music videos with directors like Spike Jonze, David Lynch, and Michael Bay. How is that recap?
That's good. I would just say that in the ashram, my given name was Guru Charan, which means he who sits at the lotus feet of the guru, and Gucci was a nickname of that. Just so
so that was easier.
Yeah. But otherwise, it's good. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you remember most about those early years? And when did you realize makeup wasn't just play, that it was a form of art and identity? And when do you think you realized makeup wasn't just play, that it could be more? That was probably after your experience in Switzerland, but there's one thing to enjoy doing it, especially makeup, because a lot of girls might enjoy doing it, but realizing you're good at it It's an art form.
Yeah. Certainly not being allowed to wear makeup was very intriguing. And I did love painting, but I found myself being less and less able to paint well on paper, but I found myself having an easier time on a face, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I wanted to do until I would say my early 20s. I went to makeup school when I was 23 in Paris. And I think that came a lot, largely from living in Switzerland and being really kind of romanced by going to fashion shows in Paris. And it couldn't have been more a contrast from where I came from in Sweden. And I think I was very curious, and I knew that I was creative, and I also have an ear for language, and I love riding horses. So those three things, I thought: translator, professional show jumper, or makeup artist maybe. But I didn't really understand how I'd really become a makeup artist. You know, I
Of
didn't know that
course.
could be like a real job. I told my parents I wanted to go to this makeup school when I was 23, or I was younger actually, 20. Anyways, I told them that I felt I needed to go on more of a creative path. And they're both academics. And so for them to give me their blessing was a big deal. I just said I don't feel like I'm a traditional college candidate. And this is the only world in which that feels safe to say. You know, I could never say that in front of any of the other parents that I know, pretty much, except for in fashion, where a lot of people have not gone to college. You have, of course.
But most that I've spoken to have not.
Yeah. So I think it feels natural and it's not such a big deal. I remember once I was actually at dinner with a friend at her parents' house. And I remember her dad talking to us at dinner and saying that you can't have success in life unless you've gone to a really great college. And I was just sitting there thinking, I'm doing okay. Because at that point, I had already worked with Lancome for 5 years and I was working with Revlon and very busy. So I think it really just depends on the person.
Well,
And
yeah. And I question what college would have done except delay when you started in a way. You had such a great life experience. For anyone to think 4 years on a campus versus your life experiencing so many different ways of living, cultures, languages, and just that adventurous nature versus being sheltered. I don't, it's almost like putting a wild animal into a pet store. You know what I mean? In a weird way.
I don't think it would be a good fit. So when I went to makeup school in Paris, I decided to do it in French because I thought if I'm not good at makeup, at least I didn't waste my time and I would further along my French if I wanted to be a translator. And so I always was thinking, I can't waste my time because my parents gave me their blessing and support. So I have to show them that I'm not going to mess around. And I think also just growing up in Sweden and having never had meat in my life and always having my parents be super focused on ingredients, what we eat and things like that, that gave me this different way of thinking about makeup for the future. Like I had no idea that would be such a big part of our brand, like having a brand one day. But of course, it went through different stages. But when I moved to LA, I worked with, as you said, Spike Jones and things like that. Then I decided when I was almost 30.
Well, I want to back it up. Before we get into your fashion career, I want to ask about that film work because that is what you started doing first after having gone to school to learn about it. You've said it helped you create authentic emotional skin. And I love this quote from you. It's beautiful to create skin that feels like an emotion. So I would love to know, how did that early film experience influence your fashion work? And how did you transition from Hollywood to high fashion? But I have to ask, you were so successful at that point, working with these iconic directors. Why walk away from that? Like, was there something that just was pulling you towards fashion and still images because you had just made it almost? You know what I mean?
Good, great questions, Jill. I have to say that living in LA, even though I only lived there for 5 years, and I started to begin to work a lot with actresses, some of them became very close friends. And I felt a little bit that it was stifling living in LA. It was very insular, the focus.
Mm-hmm.
And I was feeling, to be honest, restless. I wanted to do more. I didn't want to just do pretty makeup. I wanted to do more and see if I could succeed in the fashion world because I wanted to challenge myself. And I was getting a little bored.
Okay, so you were like NYC.
Yeah, NYC, baby.
Yeah.
I do think that me having done a lot of commercials and music videos and 2 movies, I think that what really resonated with me about doing that work was authenticating the character. So when we were doing research for Lottie, Cameron Diaz and being John Malkovich, the movie was supposed to be taking place in and around New Jersey. There's like a whole scene that was supposed to be around New Jersey Turnpike.
Oh,
So I'd go to the New Jersey Mall and take a look, studying like her age group, her demographic, and sort of like what would she look like, and suggesting these various sort of character traits to Spike to create this authentic character so you wouldn't be distracted and you wouldn't think, oh my God, it's Cameron Diaz. She's so beautiful. Like, how
right.
I borrow some characteristics.
Yeah, and even just knowing what they wear when they go to a mall or during the day versus, right.
Just, de-glamorize her a bit.
Mm,
And, nobody is getting really super glammed up to go to a mall anyways. But
right. But you still have to do full makeup to do that, which
oh
is,
yeah.
which in your mind you think you just don't put makeup on her, but it's like, no, you have to put makeup on her. Also, the lens, the lighting, all of that. But it's like,
Yeah.
make her down
Yeah,
almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally under makeup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because she has those crazy blue eyes. So I suggested, what about brown contact lenses? And also looking at people's teeth. Her teeth are so perfect and so
Yes.
naturally, and they're too perfect. And so I thought, what about if she has a little tooth situation, like a little tooth implant? So we got a tooth made, and I was inspired by like Kate Moss's teeth. Patricia Arquette, that little like
Like a fangy thing.
that cute little
Yeah.
charming fangy thing.
But
And
something some people would get fixed, but her character would not. So it's
no,
even right.
and
That's genius because that would totally be strange to have those perfect like Crest commercial teeth.
and yeah, that the blue eyes, and then
Yeah.
also she naturally has thin eyebrows. So I added hairs to her eyebrows to make them look like she didn't ever pluck them. So I
Oh,
did
that's
this
so
really
good.
cool eyebrow application every day with glue.
Yeah, because even if she'd had 6 months to prepare, you can't even just grow out your.
No,
And if
she
you've been
never
getting it
had.
waxed for so long, even if she had them, you'd have to do something because that's not. And people don't want to walk around with bushy eyebrows when they're not on set.
No, she just never would have that. So, but
Yeah.
it's cool. And thinking back on that, it felt weirdly creative to think about those things, those elements that
Absolutely.
add to her realness as her character. So those sort of things I really liked. And I still do love the character work. So segueing from my stint in LA, I ended up going to LA constantly later
Right.
after I moved to New York. But then going to New York, and when I finally was given the opportunity to work with Grace for the first time, I think what she loved the most about how I do makeup is that I made the skin feel very hyper real, but in a super beautiful way. Not only the skin, but also just like it all felt like breathable, but there was a reality to it.
Well, let me get into, because I'll lead us there. So you did your time as an assistant in this business, as most all of us did from our generation, at least. And many of my guests have said how critical that was between Carla Martinez. That's the advice she'd give to anyone starting out. Gabby Karifa Johnson, Leslie Fremar, both pointing out that nowadays many people either try and skip over that stage or they do the minimal amount of time till they can go off on their own. So, what was that experience like, though? Because the fashion industry, we all know, is not an easy, gentle, soft landing, especially that time period.
Yeah.
And there's no HR on set. I talk about this with a lot of
Yeah.
my guests. There's no one minding the store in that way. You have a bunch of individuals coming together.
Mhm.
Um, and it's tough at the beginning. It's growing pains and it's tough. What was that experience like when you were first starting out in the fashion industry, post experience in Hollywood? And before we talk about, your editorial break with Bruce Weber and Cameron for Harper's and Grace, those beginning days when you're not Gucci Westman. You are,
Mhm.
but you're not.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually didn't really have a ton of time assisting. I can tell you who I assisted. Assisted a little bit, Paul Starr a few times, maybe one or two times on some music video with Madonna in LA that Orlando was working on. And then I worked with him on a Vanity Fair cover where I was assisting. And then I assisted Lisa Story a few times, Joe Strettle a few times, and Dick Page a few times. What I take away from my learnings with assisting, especially the artists in LA, was that I would always soak up all of the opportunity, the experience to do as much as I could and learn as much as I could and never be asked to do anything. I always wanted it to be
Mhm.
done. And I was so grateful to be there. And what I find is such a contrast to younger people today is that they want to know when they're going to be finished, as
Right.
opposed to I never used to ask for money for the job. So I would always be embarrassed to ask for payment. And I thought that it was a little harsh on the assistants to have to ask the artists themselves instead of an agent helping you, you know?
Right.
They're like, oh no, you get payment directly from, and so I would just always be like, well, it's okay. I'll be fine. And so I would never get paid. And then what happened sometimes with some of those people was that the client would start seeing me doing a lot of the makeup on the models. And
Yeah.
so I would start getting the jobs. And it was a little hairy because I never sought to take someone's client. I never even thought that was an option.
Right.
They asked me, I mean, one of them especially was like having me do everything. She was like, God, you're like,
You're good.
go do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, thanks. And I was just super happy to be there. I had no ulterior motive or intention or anything. So I think there's a lot of talent in the world. And it's just, you have to have everything in place at the same time. You have to
Right.
have exposure, you have to have the talent, you have to have the opportunity. And if you do make that to that sort of place, you have to be able to maintain the pressure and the stress and all of that.
Right.
So when I did move to New York, I was the person who never had an assistant for the longest time because I didn't think that I was in a position to be able to ask for an assistant. And then I remember I was doing a shoot with all of the big supermodels with Garen and Stephen Meisel. It was Linda, Amber, Shalom. It was everyone. I'm sure you would remember it. Stella Tennant, Carolyn Murphy, like everyone. And Garen said to me, honey, where's your assistant? Because there's so many people. I was like, huh.
Yeah, well, Orlando said when he did his first show, he didn't know he was allowed to have an assistant, and he did every girl.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, someone said, you get an assistant. It's really
Yeah.
funny, though,
It
because
is.
that definitely seems to happen. And that's probably part of even being an assistant for a longer period of time, too. You start maybe seeing that because Orlando, too, he fell into it, never really assisted. I mean, his brother begged him to come on a shoot and save the day. And from then he went to Paris and the rest is history.
Yeah.
So, it is interesting because people don't really share knowledge all the time. No one's there to hold your hand, right? Everyone's busy and you're kind of on your own to figure it out. But
Yeah.
it is hard. You don't know what you're allowed to ask for. You don't want to be the person that then gets a reputation for being needy or wanting this or that. And you don't know how it's being communicated to everyone else by that one question. So it's pretty crazy. But going back to your first, let's say, breaks, because there's one for magazines and one for your first cover. Okay. I've read your first editorial cover was Cameron Diaz for Harper's Bazaar with Patrick Demarchelier, followed by Vanity Fair with Annie Leibovitz. What do you remember about these shoots? Those are two major photographers and two of the biggest magazines outside of Vogue, obviously.
I remember being super grateful for having the chance to be there, and that Cameron asked me to do that job, and it was with Serge and Brana, I think. And I just remember feeling like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. And I also did like purple eyeshadow, and she looked so hot. Her hair color was so perfect. And she did this like little look over her shoulder. It was like, oh, Patrick at his finest, the prettiest, most supple light. It was beautiful.
And had you worked with Harper's or Patrick before then? Because I'm wondering what it's like
No.
to come on set when you're being requested by the talent and not necessarily known, not that you weren't known by the magazine, but the talent suggests you. So I'm just wondering what that feels like getting on set that way.
So with Patrick, it was fine.
Yeah.
But with different photographers, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
It can be a little bit like, I have to use you because the talent insists on us using you.
Right.
For sure. But Patrick was completely, he wouldn't care if it was like my dog coming to do the makeup.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you were
yeah.
lucky in that way to have any early experiences with Bruce and or Patrick, especially Bruce and Patrick, as far as the kindness. And
Yeah.
then these aren't three photographers, in my experience, that are demanding about who does hair and makeup. There are some that are very specific. And, I go down a deep rabbit hole on why. A lot of times it's not necessarily the quality of their work, not that they're not all talented, but it's also the vibe on set. There's an importance of the team being a certain
And I think it's fair to want to surround yourself with people who you feel will help elevate your work and make you perform the best to your utmost. It's also a style thing. And that has become more apparent to me now that I'm not as in it as I was. I used to think, I can do that. But looking back, my style isn't necessarily a Craig McDean style,
Right.
So I understand. It makes sense to me.
Well, and then the other thing I was going to ask you later, but it's exactly what we're talking about now, is striking the balance between the photographer and editor and the celebrity who is your client first.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing that the team sometimes, just from my experience on the other side, is so-and-so Chris McMillan or whoever, someone that typically is brought on by Jennifer Aniston or a talent that we hadn't used any other time, are they going to defer to the
Mhm.
client if it's in opposition to what the magazine really needs for the
Mhm.
cover? Where's the loyalty, basically?
Well, I was in a bit of a unique position because I quickly became, I would say, kind of a regular
Mm-hmm.
Vogue and a lot of magazines. So it was absolutely a collaboration
Right.
between us and a conversation. So
Yep.
I would say,
Well, and the talent trusted you. So
yeah, the
that's,
talent,
yeah,
yeah, they trusted me and they also want to push themselves usually and see a different side of themselves that they haven't seen and not shut down a creative exercise that they may be, completely blown away by. So I think there's
right.
always that little allure where, they are interested in seeing how someone can portray them maybe slightly differently than what they're accustomed to.
Used to. Yeah. For me, what I remember is if it was a celebrity and you came in right when that shift happened between
Mhm.
models and celebrities, Tanya and I went through our cover bookings and it went from 4 celebrities a year, probably in 2000, to 12 in like
Yeah.
2003. So you're hitting right when that's
Yeah.
becoming the new trend. And I'd be like, Gucci, please, because it's hard. I hate getting my makeup done. I can't imagine someone else. It's a very vulnerable thing.
Yeah.
You don't have a mirror most of the time when you're on set. I mean, I'd be the person that asked for one. I guess Ariana Grande gets one, and you see yourself a certain way. And the excitement of being on the cover of Vogue. And you don't know how the light is. You don't know what the retouching process is. It's hard to trust,
Yeah.
but I knew, like, of all the makeup artists, you were so good with celebrities because you understood them. You understood all of those insecurities from having all that experience already. So you were the easy book always when it came, and just your demeanor, right? Like, you can come in and, get them to feel comfortable right off the bat. And then you're friends with all these celebrities too. So then there's a trust when they're all talking in Hollywood, all of that.
Yeah, back when for years the celebrity couldn't bring the makeup artist. It was always,
Right.
the editor
Exactly.
and the photographer. And I think that my demeanor was because a lot of it, I would say 40% or 50 even is how do you adapt to being on set because there are so many egos and personalities and
Right.
things you just have to soften your own self and make room for everyone else, but you still have to stand your ground
Yeah.
because
Your upbringing probably had a lot to do with that because you were always calm. I've never seen a fit or,
no, I think understanding the insecurities and just making somebody feel like you are super confident in what you're doing. You can
yeah.
never tell yourself ever
That's
like,
what Orlando says is the
oh,
most important thing.
no, you cannot. I remember an instance. It wasn't Vogue, it was Vanity Fair, and it was my first time working with Madonna, and I was like such a big fan of hers. And it was with Steven and Garen, and she's standing on this wheel, like something round. She was
Yeah.
standing beside us. And Garen had set her hair, I think, and I was starting to do her makeup, and she was acting like such a brat. Like she was giving me such a hard time looking around being disrespectful a little bit,
Yeah.
She didn't know me. She was like, who is this little punk? Why am I letting her do my makeup? And Garen came over, and this is something that I'm forever grateful to Garen for because of that old school sort of mentality that the only way we can succeed here is if our team succeeds, all of us, hair, makeup, styling, photography. And Garen said, like he looked in the mirror and he looked at her and he said, she's getting you really good. Just sit still. And then
Wow.
after that, she was like, okay. And then I finished that job and I had like 5,000 bookings with her. It was like,
Wow.
that was really cool because I was like the biggest Madonna fan ever when I was younger.
Yeah. I mean, that's great of Garen.
But it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But to have someone, that would take that time and even to be noticing what's going on.
But if I'm not able to have the time that I need to make her look good,
Oh, yeah.
have her give me her face, so I can focus on it, it's not going to be a great image because I needed to make her feel confident and good.
Right.
And,
Exactly.
and it's just that knowing that we all have to do this together. And there are moments when I've worked with other teams and they don't have that mentality. And it's just such a bummer because it's never as good.
Oh, no, I can only imagine that. I've never even thought about that. But when I think about what my role was at Vogue, and I always explained it as the center of the pinwheel because video, the interview, the photo shoot, all of these things have to get done. And a fitting, Tawny will need this amount of time. Sally will need her amount of time. But at the end of the day, we only have this amount of time. So who's going to take too much that the other person's going to get less? And you have a certain amount of time till the photographer's saying, we need talent on set or the sun is setting, so making sure you have your time too.
To be honest, that was something that was always like Mario, because hair would always start. And then as soon as I would start, he would be like, okay. And I would be like, I just got her.
Right.
He would get antsy because
Yeah, of course.
Around forever.
Of course.
It was just like a dance.
Yeah. Okay. So you credit Grace Coddington for being the one who really launched your career and making
1000%.
and making you the go-to makeup artist at Vogue. So can you take us through that first Grace shoot? Who was the talent and the photographer? What do you remember? And just what Grace means to you as a great mentor?
Yeah. I mean, without Grace, I don't know where I would be sitting right now, to be honest. Well, the first time I got to meet Grace was Trudy Tapscott. Do you remember Trudy? So
of course I do.
Yeah, she set up a meeting for me to go to Vogue and be introduced to some of the editors, Phyllis, Grace, I think Elisa Santisi, not Tanya, I don't think was there. And I met with Grace, and then the options that I had disappeared as I was leaving the building. And I think that she thought I put too much effort into how I looked, which I learned from my mistakes. I feel like I put makeup on her.
That would be the thing you would think to do, right? If you show up.
No, Grace, you don't do that.
Okay.
You wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Right? Would you?
No, but I guess I wouldn't know if I was you.
Yeah.
Because you're selling makeup. So I would, that's interesting though. I wouldn't have thought about that. That's a good thing for people listening to think about.
I feel that there's like a seriousness that you need to kind of portray or project. So fast forward to a few months later, I get confirmed on a shoot with Bruce Weber and Grace in Florida, a Survivor story shoot with a bunch of people, like so many people. Again, I had no assistant. And I was doing everyone, and somebody asked me to do a cut, like a cut on somebody's arm. And so I did, because I also did learn special effects when I lived.
Right.
So I did like a cut on the arm, like everything. And I always had everything ready to go. And so I did this cut and I didn't think anything of it. And then we finished the job. Then there was another job attached to that in LA with Arthur Elgort. And it was with Stella Tennant and Arthur's boys, Warren and Ansel. And it was called the Prairie something.
Oh my gosh, I know that. Oh my gosh, that is a major shoot. So incredible.
I mean, now I feel like that was like, I remember doing Stella's makeup in the desert. And I said, God, I can't believe I'm like blowing my one shot I have with Grace. I don't think she likes me. I feel like she's not said a word to me. And Stella's like, oh, she's kind of just tough and she's Welsh and she's like a little tough. I was a little like, not a little, but actually I fully convinced she didn't like me. And so Grace asked me to make Stella look like she had been in the desert for 2 weeks, like just to make her look
You're like, this is right up my alley.
yeah. So that was like music to my ears because I was like, I got this and I will do it really well
Yeah,
and make her look, kind of dirty, but in a really, really good way.
exactly.
And so after that shoot, I still had no idea. And we were going to the airport, all of us in a van. And of course, I was like in some junky terminal that didn't have like even real airlines because I didn't know how to ask for anything. And so everyone else is traveling together and I was by myself. So they were dropping me first. And then Grace gets out of the van and I thought she's just going to say goodbye and sorry it didn't work out. And she gets out and she looks at me dead straight and she said, Gucci, I haven't seen talent like this since I discovered Pat McGrath, and I want you to be on my team for everything, and you must not be available for me. And
Oh my God.
I didn't, and I was trying to not be like,
I'm getting chills just sitting here listening.
I was by myself though, and it was too late to call anyone in New York.
Yeah.
Red eye, and I
You
was
want to like tell someone sitting next to you in the lounge.
be excited, and I wasn't in the lounge. There was no lounge for me. I was just like, whatever airline I was on, but that changed my life, because flying home that night, the next day I had every option for every story, every cover with every editor for probably the next 5 years. It was
Oh my God.
bananas.
Well,
I really,
yeah. And then that reminds me of how other artists I've had on have talked about what Vogue was. We're pre-Instagram at this time. We're around the time that celebrities are just taking over for models, getting campaigns and whatnot. But still, you're relying on Vogue and other big magazines, but mostly Vogue as your kind of resume. So,
oh yeah,
what were your parents like when you told them? Were they like, "Oh my God,
really
we
understand. To be honest, didn't understand. I think they understood that it was great, but
right,
they didn't really understand like vote,
right,
Oh, but for me, the most important thing was being available for Grace always,
yep,
because I remembered her words. And, a few years later, when I got approached by Lancome to become their global artistic director, I was not as excited maybe as a lot of people would have been because I thought, oh no, this is going to take away from my editorial career. Because I thought the money will always hopefully come at some point.
right,
Yeah, or some kind of money.
yeah,
So I also remember a big stint in which I did mostly editorial and not as much advertising. And I was like, God, how am I going to like balance this? But I enjoyed it so much. That creative flow was such a beautiful time in my life and my career. And I felt all of that experience and teamwork and imagery that we created really was helping me gear up to what I then later was going to set out to do.
right. And you can't really step away because once someone else gets on set, who
Oh,
knows? But yeah, so I wanted to talk about some of the celebrity covers we did together and then get into your brand. So we did a lot together. Multiple Kate Hudson covers, Cameron Diaz's first cover, which was May 2003 with Annie Leibovitz and Tawny Goodman. Sarah Jessica Parker's first cover, February 2002 with Mario Testino and Grace Coddington. And question for you on that, because we did reshoot that cover with Stephen Meisel, but we ran the original one because her hair was straightened on the reshoot and no one recognized her when we were testing it. Did you do that second shoot?
no, she wasn't. Okay, in all honesty, she wasn't happy with that cover that we
I
did
know.
with Mario because
I know. Listen, I
felt
had to
for
talk to
her.
her about it.
Yeah,
I had to talk to her about it.
yeah, I felt for her because she wanted to have makeup on, and she wanted to feel beautiful, and Mario didn't want her to have makeup on. Like,
Well, and the other problem was since Anna wanted to reshoot it, I
Mhm.
had to call Ina and say, we have to reshoot it. And for someone to take the time to reshoot something, there has to be a good reason.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't think she'll be happy with it.
Mhm.
You know, she doesn't look as beautiful as she is. So they gave us a
Oh,
reshoot. And then we run the original. I saw her at the Golden Globes after that shoot.
yeah.
And she was
That was,
like, Jill, I was like, oh my God. I mean, I like it. It's very of the times. I mean, I have it. See, can you see it?
yeah, but I don't.
But I see. Listen, it's your first
Also, if a woman feels that they need something to,
yes.
oh, be confident and comfortable, let her have it. Like
Yep.
it was beautiful eyes, and
Yeah, it definitely
that wasn't
wasn't the
cool.
ideal shoot, and I know Anna very much wanted to make it up to her, and I think
Yeah.
we did that with many covers
Yeah.
following. But then we have the Penelope Cruz shoot with Annie and Tawny Madrid, which you talked about earlier, remembering what you used on the lip. Okay, so I remember that, and you probably remember me having a whole breakdown like on that shoot. I know your mother was with you, right?
Yeah,
Was your
because Dash
brother there
was only,
too?
my brother was there too, because
Yeah.
Dash was only 2 months old.
Oh, right. You had Dash
Yeah, so I was
there.
breastfeeding, and I remember Penelope Cruz was just the most charming, delightful
Oh,
person in the world.
yes.
And she,
Except when it came to Annie asking her if she could start at like 9, and she's like, 9, just because and we couldn't even get food that early, remember?
yeah, she's Spanish.
Lunchtime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
the
it's
siestas. We were
young.
trying to eat at noon because we were working on our hours.
Yeah,
And we were trying to make her work
yeah.
on our hours in a place that does not operate on those hours. But I mean, that was an amazing shoot. The fact that we survived it, Karen and I talked a lot about it when
Uh,
she was on,
that
just
was
because,
amazing.
yeah, because our bullfighter got bounded and was in a
My
hospital.
God, I know. Gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
But
but you also did makeup for many of Annie and Grace's big fantasy and couture shoots, like Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz with Keira Knightley, Hansel and Gretel with Lady Gaga, Lily Cole, and Andrew Garfield, Romeo and Juliet with Roberta Belay and Coco Rocha, and Dangerous Liaisons, which I recently talked to Grace and Karen about, with Gerard Depardieu, Giselle, and Louis Garrel. So I would love you to take us behind the scenes of one of these epic shoots. How about Alice in Wonderland?
that one was great. That was like a moment in time. Gosh.
I wasn't on that shoot. It is an
Oh,
iconic shoot that I talk about a lot with Grace and Karen about the fight over the dress. I don't know, one of Grace's, and with Mary Howard about the mushroom. Oh, I also heard all about the fight about Marc Jacobs' hair from Grace.
oh, so I would say I have such distinct memories from some of those shoots, and especially the Alice in Wonderland, because so to start off, we were in Paris and it was outside of Paris, the shoot. So it was 2.5 hours each way every day. So guess when Grace would pick me up every day?
6 a.m.
No, 3:30 a.m. Yeah, to be by
Oh,
6.
to be oh my God.
So I would be picked up by Grace and then ride in the car with her for 2.5 hours. And then we would go and work with these extraordinary designers. And Natalia was the talent.
Yes.
And, she very much had that kind of makeup that I do.
Yes.
I remember it being so cool because each designer made a dress for Grace for Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
So it was a version of a blue dress for each and every one of them. So, but it was like Tom Ford and
Did you do John Galliano's makeup?
yeah,
Oh
everybody.
my God. Because I mean, wasn't he the queen?
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that you're sitting with all of these
yeah,
famous
everyone.
designers.
Karl Lagerfeld.
Oh my God.
He just came and did the pictures and left.
Yeah.
And he insisted on starting at some crazy hour like 5 a.m. But it was just, to be a little bit around that sort of creativity and power and talent was so inspiring. And we just felt like, wow, this is going to be an insane and unforgettable shoot.
Oh, yeah. I loved the Tom Ford picture. He had the glasses
Yeah,
on when he's
right,
falling down. I mean,
right.
it
Yeah,
was epic.
such a clever shoot, so unbelievable that they pulled it off. And I remember the food being insane. I remember Karen and I became good friends on that shoot, but the food was so good. And I remember this one part of when we would have lunch, they would have bottles of wine on the lunch table, you know?
Yes, Paris.
They wouldn't, yeah. And maybe not as much now, but I remember Natalia disappeared and nobody could find her. And she went and brought some wine with her. And I don't know who she was sitting with, but she fell asleep. And like her whole face, I was like, oh,
Oh my God.
those are good, good, good old days that it felt like just the build up to what we were there to do to create these images was such an important part of the story.
Yeah, and they last forever.
Yeah, forever.
So because I know your time,
Mhm.
let's shift to your current role as founder and CEO. You launched Westman Atelier in 2018, and the products are amazing. I can personally vouch that I use the blush every day. What made you make this leap from makeup artist to CEO? And tell the listeners more about the line, how every product has a purpose and how you merge skincare and makeup. It's so genius, especially for me now being older. I do wear more makeup now, and hydration is everything. So if there's a way to make sure I'm not drying my skin out with what I'm putting on it, and I can
Mhm.
keep it clean and fresh while feeling comfortable with having makeup on, I
Yeah.
mean, give it
Yeah.
to me.
So I guess it goes again back to how I grew up in Sweden and my early days, and there being such a big focus on ingredients. And I actually got contact dermatitis from using too many aggressive skincare products when I was younger, which then led to rosacea that I struggled with for years. And I'm very careful with what I use on my face. That's why we make our own products. But
Yeah, I mean, because your skin when you're younger, you know better than anyone. And even with young babies, your skin, if you injure it at that age, it's not going away. It's like any burn that you get, you won't replace that skin.
no,
So,
no. So I had this fascination with skincare. And because I had to wear foundation all of the time to cover my rosacea, I was super curious about creating my own line. It took some time for me to ideate what it was going to be, but it was a combination of things. Journalists always asking me, so I'm the queen of natural makeup, so I'm the queen of
dewy
yeah,
skin.
and
Yeah.
to be honest, it used to bother me because I thought, don't they see all these other things that I can do? Can't they see that I'm also creative? And that cover of Italian Vogue I just did.
Yeah.
But then when it was time to do my own thing, I thought, I want to share this philosophy around emphasizing your skin and elevating yourself by bringing out the best in yourself in a way that's respectful of you and not a transformative process. So I wanted to create this edited lineup of product that would be every product would have skincare active ingredients that would be included at efficacy levels and not marketing levels so that they
Right.
be in there to heal and repair the skin. Of course, the products are super clean. So there's a big blacklist. We reject half of the ingredients that labs commonly use, and we have to find alternative ingredients. And we also have to make the product feel as luxurious and high performing as our competitors.
Yeah. Well, I remember on sets, you were a walking billboard for what you did at home. I would ask you all the time. And it was almost like you would say, if you don't have this, use water to wash your face. Like you,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember all that because your skin, you didn't wear makeup on set and your skin looked incredible. Like you didn't need to. And we'd always be like, what are you doing? And
But I did wear makeup. It just was, you can't see that I wear
right,
makeup
right.
because that's how I like to do it. But again, that comes from movie makeup. And I felt that there was an appetite for that easy, super intuitive makeup, not too many products, not too many steps, but that all of the products would also do something to repair and soothe your skin. So that gave me a lot of volition to create this brand and share the techniques. And I'm not perfect, and I'm super transparent with the issues that I've had with my skin and giving tips and ideas on how to make it better.
Right.
If you have any skin sensitivities, it's calming and soothing the skin, and it's reparative.
Right.
And everything we do has a giant science aspect to it. We do a lot of research. We've invested a lot of money in R&D. We have our own head of science and research and development, and we source active ingredients from all over the world. Most of our color cosmetics we make in Europe. We make some in Japan. The skincare is in Korea and Japan. One of the powders and one of the eye products are in Japan. And now we're working with some other labs, just sourcing active ingredients from them and creating our own encapsulations that we own because I'm obsessed. Let me show you a picture of how my skin looked before, Jill.
Well, yeah, I've read that the skin activator completely changed your skin, right?
But look
Link
at this.
that. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But I'm going to link your site. So I do want you to talk about a couple must-haves that if someone was to go to your site and want to try out one or two products, what would the general population love, the general skin? What would be, you must have this first?
Oh, that's hard. I actually have found it so especially rewarding because it's almost like someone tells you this can't be done. And that's why it's not very easy to find. Products like lipstick without silicones and without synthetic wax. It's really hard to achieve that performance without those things. And also a hydrating technology. So all of those things are very hard to achieve with alternative ingredients, but love the task and I love
Right.
and our
It's
lab.
just like your parents saying you can't wear
Yeah,
makeup. Look where you are
yeah.
now.
It's kind of cool because our lab partners, I think, also appreciate the challenge and they want to work with us. They're like, who got your foundation? So
Oh, that's great.
sort of like just proving that it can be done in a different way. It takes a lot of time, more money, more energy and effort and research. I am so grateful for our skin activator, but it's also the products in combination with our products. I'm not wearing any silicones on my face anywhere, or PGs or phthalates or any of these questionable microplastics. I'm not wearing those, so I know that if my skin reacts, it's not because of any of our products. If I react to something, it's French fries or
Right.
I know that, okay, I'm going to have a few things tomorrow, but I douse my face in skin activator and then I wake up and it's calm. And actually, Gray the other day had an outbreak on her forehead. So I said, here, take this red light machine and keep putting skin activator on your forehead and go over it with the red light. And she woke up and she's like, wow, that is crazy.
I
Like
was
she was,
thinking this morning how much I would have loved having a makeup artist mother for like prom and all of those things. She
uh,
must be in heaven.
well, I don't know. She does a really nice job doing her makeup very naturally, which I'm so grateful for that she doesn't go overboard. She does very Ralph Lauren-y makeup, that kind of natural.
Yeah. Well, that leads me to the question, what's one thing you wish women would stop doing when it comes to makeup? And are there any beauty trends right now that you either love or hope fade fast?
Well, I think that TikTok is really beneficial for a few things. It's fun to see what's happening. It's fun to laugh at some of these things, and it's fun to see just different people's interpretation. But what I do think is sometimes missing on these social platforms would be a little bit more diversity in terms of the look. And it feels like it's always so much, and it's always like a transformation.
Well, that whole, what's it called? The blending what the Kardashians started doing, contouring. I mean, oh yeah, that's tons of makeup though to contour if you're putting layers over.
The contour though, the way it's done, I mean, I contour every day, but I don't want it to look like I'm wearing contour. I want to look like easy and that I'm healthy and taking care of myself. I don't want to look like I spent 3 hours doing my makeup.
Right.
And I do wonder if it's maybe shifting a little bit and going more toward empowering yourself and doing the best you can. Obviously, there's so much awareness around longevity and wellness now. So it does go hand in hand with that. And it just doesn't seem intuitive for young girls to want to do things that are silly, and who knows what it's going to do to them later.
Right. And it's just like when you're putting that much foundation or layers of stuff on your face, I mean, you're covering up freckles, you're covering up beauty marks. I remember once we ran Marion Cotillard's first cover, and the makeup artist didn't do this, but Anna airbrushed out her beauty mark on her forehead. And when I booked her for the second cover, she's like, please don't do that. Like, if I wanted it gone, I would have had it removed. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And you talk about that, though, enhancing who you are, not covering it up.
Yeah, I think it's empowering. And a lot of women come up to me all over the world. Actually, we were in Italy last weekend, and so many women came up and like, I love your makeup. I'm not even someone who wears a lot of makeup, but I love your makeup because it's easy and I can make myself look so nice, you know? And I think that there's something really appealing in that. And it's just the ease of it. And everyone's
just like when your grandma says, just pinch your cheeks to get the rosy. I mean, how easy is that?
I sometimes do that. Why not? Also, we're all busy. I 5 minutes to do my makeup, and it takes longer than I'm not interested.
So this has been so amazing. I don't even have looking back questions because you answered them all within this conversation. You gave advice to young makeup artists starting out by just sharing your experiences. And now we all know how to get skin like yours. So at the end of each episode, I like to ask my guests 7 rapid fire questions. They're all the same, but with the help of Claude, he came up with 2 great ones for you that I just have to ask because he's so clever, and I have to give him credit. So here we go. AM or PM?
PM? Well, no. AM.
Text or talk?
Text.
Uber or Subway?
In New York City, Subway.
Book or film?
Film.
Sweet or spicy?
Spicy.
Spots or stripes?
Stripes all day.
Top or bottom?
Bottom.
Okay. Grace Coddington compliment or Annie Leibovitz callback?
Well, both of those are hard to come by. So I would consider myself
lucky to have one.
Winning if I got either of those things.
Okay. First Vogue credit or first Westman Atelier sale?
First Westman Atelier sale was Barney's. Barney's, R.I.P.
Yeah. So I would say take a sale over the credit. They were just funny that he came up with them. That's
crazy. That's
clever, right?
Yeah, like shocking.
Yeah. Well, I loved talking to you today. The trip down memory lane. It all seems like yesterday, yet it was 20 years ago.
I know. Great memories. So cool you're doing it. You have to do a book next.
Yes, and it was so great seeing you.
Oh, you too. Thank you so much. You have to send us your address so we can send you some products.
I will. Okay, we'll talk soon.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. Okay, that's our show. Thanks for listening to Going Rogue. And be sure to like and subscribe. Today's show is produced by me and Maddie Rosenberg at Radio Free Rhinecliff with assistance from Maddie Kelly. Special thanks to David Vo for our great graphics and Taras Romanov for our epic theme music. See you next Friday.